Welcome to the ISM Career Chat podcast, where I will talk with industry professionals about their expertise. Don't forget to hit the follow button to get your dose of career stories and industry tips.
I was this close to signing a contract with a pizzeria, and then I got a notification email from the International Career Office. It was a reminder email that do not forget to sign up for the visit to EY because it's happening tomorrow. So the last registrations are happening.
Hello listeners, today our guest is Mihdi Nyelle, a fund accounting officer at AlterDomus. Hello Mihdi.
Hi.
So first of all, could you introduce us about your academic career journey, how you chose ISM and came to Lithuania instead of studying in Cameroon?
Yeah, this is a really good question actually. So the decision of moving to Lithuania started about 3 years ago, but that was not actually in Cameroon, that was in Israel. So I had relocated from Cameroon back in 2018. So I moved to Israel for a voluntary service program, which I had taken for over 4 years and a half back in Israel. Before leaving Cameroon, I was studying accounting. So I had a diploma in accounting actually before I left, but I had a break. So I took a pause in my studies and I had to relocate to Israel. But after 4 years, I asked myself the question, is it time to go back to studies again? So I was like in this period of a search, you know, to continue my career pretty much. So yeah, then I started looking around, asking questions from friends who were outside of Cameroon, you know, just consulting and getting more ideas. But everything then streamlined to Europe. So I was like, okay, Europe is the destination pretty much. So across Europe, I had a few options. Germany was on top, Scandinavia, Denmark, Sweden. Actually, Lithuania was the last one.
Oh, really?
Yes, Lithuania was the last one. And so I had applied to like a few universities in these different countries, pretty much. It was at the last close of my decision of finalizing the application process, and then ISM popped up in my, I don't know, I had a filter search kind of, I don't know, criteria, and then for some reason ISM popped up pretty much. Because at the time, the other question I had in mind is if I wanted to continue accounting. So I wasn't really sure if that was a part I wanted to continue in. So I got fascinated about data analytics. So I was like, maybe this might be a good, you know, trajectory to follow. So then ISM popped up and I saw Ecodata, the program, and I applied.
Actually, when you mentioned that you got fascinated by data analytics, right? Now that you work in accounting, did you always know that accounting was something that you want to pursue in your professional career, or was this something like a Eureka moment?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really say that I knew accounting was going to be the option. I think the point of it is that I had at least hoped that, you know, I would become an accountant after studying back home in Cameroon at some point. But then as you get to like practice accounting, you know, from time to time, because while I was in Israel, I had the opportunity to work in a finance office. So I had a bit of experience in accounts receivable and payables a little bit. So then that gave me like an idea of what I thought accounting was. So, but then I wasn't still certain that I really wanted to continue with accounting. So that's why I chose data analytics. But yeah, the hope had always been.
I see.
Yeah, to become an accountant.
So you had doubts about accounting, right? But you still got your first job in accounting at EI, right?
Yes. EY, yes. Yeah. And the point is, there's always going to be doubt at some point in everybody's career. I think you have a question at some point if this is really what you want to do. Sometimes you wouldn't really be clear until you try it, and then you get to see that this is what you do. And so I'm an accountant. And I'm studying data analytics, yes.
Well,
but there's a big connection between the two of them. There's a very tiny bit of difference in terms of, I don't know, much more details if you can. Yeah.
So do you believe that your data analytics skills that you've learned in ISM have excelled and proven useful in accounting for you?
For sure. Definitely, 100%. Because the more you get to practice or you know, try to explore and experiment what you learned in terms of like the technical aspects of data analytics, that becomes very useful in accounting because, to be honest, there's a huge change that has evolved in the field of accounting now, and the data analytics tool are more or less integrated in accounting itself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's like something that's
So going back to your first job, right? What do you believe were like the biggest hurdles for you when trying to enter the local Lithuanian professional market?
At the very beginning of it, I think the first challenge I had was I think I had arrived when I would say I was the last batch of internationals who arrived to Lithuania with a student visa, because now everybody comes with a temporary residence permit.
Yeah.
So at the time, I had not gotten my temporary residence permit, and to get a job, you need a temporary residence permit as a foreigner, pretty much. And so I had this hurdle because I had a few interviews actually with a few other like Western Union, for example. But the setback was that I didn't have a temporary residence permit at the time, so they could not offer the job for me because it was a criteria to have it.
Oh.
So that became a challenge because I could not longer pursue other companies because it would have been pretty much the same thing. So I had to pause in my search pretty much, and until I got my permit actually.
I see.
Yeah. But that was one of them. But I think a few other options were to know like what are the actual requirements that you would need, because sometimes you have a broader idea of what a local job market could be like, but when you streamline it to your career, you might not necessarily have that much information, especially when you're an international student, that much information available to you unless you experience it while you're already there. Yeah.
So when talking about like visas and stuff like that, do you believe that's one of like the unique challenges international students face in Lithuania?
In that sense, it would be the local experience, international experience. So exposure, that's the word, exposure to international experience. Because pretty much every international student who wants to go into a career path somewhat comes with a level of qualifications and experience from their home country. But being in Lithuania, it's very much more important to have a local experience in the local market, pretty much. And so that's a big challenge because for most international students, the most easier options would be to look for international companies. But then for international companies to be able to give you an entrance or a junior level position as an entrance offer, it is somewhat like an expectation for you to have that bit of experience in any form of international field or international company. And this is a big challenge because most international students who might come here have only worked in their home country, so they don't have that. Yeah.
So you need international experience to work in an international company to gain experience.
That's how it looks like, because like maybe not in all cases. Yeah. Because some companies, the process could be okay, let's give a chance. Yeah. Like in most cases, you get like a first chance on everything.
Yeah. But for example, if it's not an international company, right? Do you think the language barrier is really something that like causes trouble for international students, or not so much? Like, how important is like your fluency in Lithuanian when talking about financial accounting?
Language is a big factor for sure, 100%. If you would want to pursue companies like local companies in the field, different careers have different requirements, pretty much. In the field of finance, the local language, being fluent in the local language, I wouldn't say it's like a very, very critical requirement. It would be very useful, like regardless, to have it, because it would put you on a spring. You just pretty much be up high up there. But if you do have the language, or if you do not have the language, for example, it means your options are limited to go for international companies, because international companies, maybe in some cases you would require, but in most cases you're not required to speak Lithuanian in the corporate environment, pretty much.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that Lithuanian companies are also just adapting and helping international workers. But one more thing I actually want to ask you about Lithuania was, did you experience any culture shock? Was there something like in the workforce that you came in, there was like culture in there and you were like, wow, that's definitely different?
In terms of like the working environment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely 100%, because the corporate world in Europe, or the corporate environment in Europe, I think it's very unique across board. The notion of corporate life from my country, Cameroon, for example, it's very formal. You know, like everything has its procedure and protocol and everything. Not that Europe doesn't have, there is, but for example, in terms of like hierarchy, you wouldn't necessarily find like a senior manager or like a manager be in the same working space on the same floor at some particular point in time, or sitting even next to each other. So there's that clear distinction of hierarchy. So for example, the senior manager would have his or her own private office, and you would only perhaps go through their secretary to get to them, or you would have to book an appointment to see them, pretty much. But here, at least from my first experience at EY, and it's still the same thing, I could sit right across a partner next to me or even across. And so that was a shift of mentality, to be honest, because I could reach out to them at any point in time if I have any questions, if I have any doubts about anything. At some point in time, in your very first few weeks in the company, you even get to have a lunch session with them. Currently, at AlterDomus, there was one time I was at work and my business line director and my senior manager, they were like, Mehdi, let's go for lunch. Let's go have some good time. And we walked, we discussed, and we went to a restaurant and we had lunch. This is not something you would often see in the corporate world. I think, at least back home in my country, I think it's pretty much the same in other African countries as well. And maybe dress code as well. It's pretty much, very casual, which is good. Smart casual always works. But in the field of finance back home,
everyone walks around in suits
it's like
and tuxedos
you're suit up, you're tied
that.
up. It's like it's so serious. Briefcase, cross out like a cross bag and everything. And I think it's the same. It's kind of similar with the US. I'm not sure, but I think friends have shared like. But this is the very unique thing about Europe, and that makes it really, really, really interesting and very attractive as well to young people.
I see. And well, Lithuania does have its own perks, that the hierarchy isn't so demanding, and that you can never go up the corporate ladder or anything. They're just friendly people. What would you say to international students when it comes to helping them become more marketable when trying to land their first job? What would be some of the maybe resume tips or something like that to help them look more marketable?
Resume tip is definitely one of them. As much as you can streamline your resume, or I don't know, your what they call it, the CV, to suit your skills. What you have, what I used to do, which I think sometimes it's helpful to do as well, is that you look at the career path you want to follow. So for example, if you want to be a data analyst, what does a data analyst need? Perhaps you might not be clear about it, or if, I don't know, a financial analyst, you might not be clear. But what you could do is that you could look up companies, go to, I don't know, a renowned international company, go through their portfolio, look at the various, the employee page pretty much. And you could just scan through a couple of them, look at professionals with data analytics, careers, and try to see what they have as data analysts. Perhaps, maybe if it's a junior position, then you have to look at the junior position, more or less, and try to see if there's anything that you have in common, or what you need to improve on yours. So perhaps you would need to take some online courses, some self-training practice courses, those 3 months, sometimes 1 month, those short courses that would help to boost your CV would be very much important, especially if they're international courses rendered by, offered by these big companies as well. But one important other thing is communication and networking. So apart from the resume and the technical skills that you develop from these courses, I think communication and networking is a very crucial, so critical.
You also mentioned with the resume, I'd like to summarize that part. You believe that you should scout out the people that have your own career path that you want to follow, see what they have, and then also see how you can add that to yourself and see what you can learn with that. Then I also I want you to elaborate a little bit about networking. Like you mentioned that when trying to pick your university at Europe, you talk to your friends and stuff like that. So what did you do in terms of networking, both for uni and both for your career path?
For uni, networking, what I did was that I had a couple of friends who were already studying in Europe at the time. So I reached out to them for ideas, you know, like what to look out for, and not just individuals in Europe. I reached out to my seniors at work at the time when I was in Israel. Explain my situation to them, explain my desires and my ambitions and my goals. And they had suggestions to what kind of career path you should pursue if this is your situation. So because you are not in full, you know, like control or like complete information of what you want to do. There's someone who always has something more than what you know. So reach out to someone who has more information, who could help.
So like a mentor.
Exactly. If you do have a chance to get a mentor, then perfect. You could do that. But that's in the sense of you know, like moving into ISM. But in terms of career path, networking, it's a very critical one, because like networking just puts you on a pedestal. You know, like it gives you that opportunity to talk to company employees, to company experts who could tell you exactly what you would need to get an entrance job.
I see. Okay, so one more thing I'd actually like to ask: if you would be starting out again, right, when coming to ISM, what would you do differently? Would you like do more networking? Would you do more like research? What would you do?
Definitely there has to be a little bit much more an extensive search that you do. But the one good thing about ISM is that you could always reach out to like, they have those facilities, those
faculty members
that you could message, you could reach out to them privately and ask questions and things like that. But for sure, you in everybody like career path, sorry to say, networking has to be something that you start early enough. So it is very critical to start networking early, because if you miss these steps in your early stages of a career, you might have challenges along the way, especially because the modern day corporate life is drastically evolving in terms of like ways of moving it up to the ladder. So yes, networking is a very critical part.
One more thing, actually. Was it easier to get like the second job offer after you got the first, or like was there a big difference or no?
There was a huge difference.
Huge difference?
Very huge difference.
Really?
Well, first of all, my career at EY was a game changer, to be honest. It was a total game changer, right from the initial step to the last part of it when I left. I don't think at some point I've never had the chance to share that part of my career, just simply because if I think about it now, it's almost still like a dream, because from the time when I applied for the position to when I actually got the offer, it was just 4 days.
4 days?
I think 4 or 5 days.
And how long did the first application take?
So what happened at that point? Okay, I think I need to say a little bit more.
Yeah, of course,
in that regard. So at the time, I had not obtained my temporary residence permit.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
So you get overwhelmed and you get a little bit frustrated with what's going on and everything. So the next possible thing you have is to take up a side hustle. Start things like that. So I was this close to signing a contract with a pizzeria, a restaurant, that I was gonna get an offer from them. And we had worked out all the paperwork and everything, and I was at the last stage of sending them my passport information, which they had to put in the system, whatever, for the tax purposes. So on that very last day of our conversation, I went to the restaurant place, spoke with the manager, and then came back home. And then I got a notification email from the International Career Office. It was a reminder email that do not forget to sign up for the visit to EY, because it's happening tomorrow. So the last registrations are happening. So I was like, anyways, let me just give it a try. Like, you never know. Like, shoot your shot, you know. And I went through the website. I had 2 accounting offers which were still open, one internship and one junior level entrance position. So I applied for both of them. I was like, yeah, let's just give it a shot.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens. That was a Monday. So on Tuesday, we went for the company visit.
Yeah.
And that Tuesday, it was very, very, very interesting day. So, and this is one other thing. You have to learn how to get out of your comfort zone when you're doing networking. Because pretty much, it would require you to do something that you've never done before. So we went and we had this whole full-blown introduction of the company and presentations by different project line managers and everything. And then there was a networking session after that where you get the chance to talk with the managers. So I had asked a couple of questions during the sessions, but then after that I spoke to each and every one of those managers. But what I did extra was that after having a conversation with them, I politely asked each and every one of them if it's okay to follow them on LinkedIn. And they individually, they would give me their LinkedIn follow, like just managers, partners actually had to follow them. And this was something extra that I had never done before. So at some point to me, it was just like some other energy in me just acting up, you know. So I had to do all these things. And then after that day, I came back and I messaged at least 4 or 5 of them, just an appreciation message for their time, which I had with them. That it did not necessarily give me the job to say, but then that was something extra that sometimes you need to do just to get yourself comfortable in the environment of doing things like this. So along the way, during the conversations while at the company, because I had spoken to them, I had a prior experience in accounting and everything from an international institution in Israel, Haifa.
Yeah.
And so they were a little bit, you know, fascinated and interested because it was a good thing to hear. Fortunately, at the time, one of the junior HR employees was the president of the ISM student association.
Really?
Yes, I forgot his name. Nadas. Is it Nadas?
Nadas.
Thank you. Nadas. So then one of the managers were like, oh, we have a colleague of ours who also goes to ISM. Maybe you can talk to him. So then I spoke to Nadas. I was like, yeah, this is my situation. This is my experience. This is what I have on my plate. By the way, I have already applied to the internship position and the junior position, those ones which were still available on the career website. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll check your profile. I'll check your application. I'll get back to you." This was Tuesday. Wednesday, he reached out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah. And was asking if I'm still interested in those positions which I applied for. I was like, "Of course, yes. Bring it on. I'm ready." Yeah. And then he was like, would you be okay if I schedule an interview with a manager? To me, this was absolutely insane. I've never seen such a thing before, because you have to go through, at least my other colleagues would have 2 or 3 interviews before even talking to a manager, which they would be working with.
And you went straight to talking to the manager?
And I had a straight interview with the manager, which was scheduled on Wednesday for Friday. Yeah. So just 2 days in between. On Friday, I had an interview with the manager. It lasted about 50 minutes. Yeah. And this was the fascinating part about it. So at the end of the interview, I was just asking just regular questions. So when can I expect a response from from the company and everything? And the manager was like, sometimes it takes a week, but sometimes it could also be as quick as a day, in the same day. And then she smiled at the end of that statement, which was kind of like a hint, and I was like, okay, this is good. An hour and a half later, about 3.5 hours later, I got a call from another HR that they have an offer for me if I'm ready to take it. And I was like, sure, bring it on, I'm on. So it was like Monday to Friday, and I got an offer.
1 week.
1 week, which I don't think anybody who works in a corporate life for a big 4 would say that's a normal thing, because it is not normal pretty much. Yeah. And so that's how I got my job at UI. And and that networking part of it was just a mind-blowing thing. So,
So a quick side note, right? So what happened with the pizzeria? Did you how did you tell them the news?
So I had to, the communication with the manager was over email. Luckily, it was not over WhatsApp, so she couldn't call. Anyways, so I messaged her over email and said, I'm sorry, at the moment I have to pause my application because I have some other challenges which are going on in terms of I haven't fully made up my mind if that's going to match my my uni schedule. Yeah. So and which was true, because then it would have been intense for me to close school and then go to a pizzeria you know, it's physical job. There's a lot of things. So I was still not 100% sure of it. So I had to be honest with her. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about this, if it's going to fit with my schedule. A couple of days later, I sent a follow-up email. Unfortunately, I cannot continue because my schedule doesn't match with the offer. So yeah, that's what happened.
Well, things happen. That's not a tragedy. But then, okay, so what would you say were like one of the most rewarding moments in your career path? So was it like the week that you like applied and you got the job, or was there something else more rewarding that you remember?
You know, it's just rewarding to know that, because this is another thing, like the whole process, the journey of getting to that step, it's very rewarding for you to think about it in the sense that sometimes we don't get the chance to think about how far we've come to, and we get caught up in like the next step. But if we take the time to like appreciate and, you know, be grateful for how far how much we've achieved and everything. So the whole process of just checking out and seeing the journey was very much fulfilling, and being able to see that I had such a massive opportunity to get such a chance and an opportunity for sure it's something very rewarding. And at the time, this was a plus and a minus at the same time. While I was at EY, I think in the whole Vilnius, at least for Vilnius, I didn't research more about Lithuania in general. I think I was the only African employee in the company at the time as an international. So that alone was, to me, it's just something very, very, very significant for me. Like I had a lot of other African friends who would say I've applied 10 times to EY and I've never gotten the chance to land a job.
Well, that's interesting. But what do you think, like, what's one thing that you would have liked to know starting out? Like, what do you know now that you would have liked to know previously? What would you tell yourself before starting your career journey?
The resources that are made available to you. If only like I had known because there's a lot of things that the internet or like the media has to offer, for example. You know, like there's a lot of resources out there that you can look up for. But then, because sometimes you get caught up in to streamline your search, your research to a particular, fixed idea. But then if you can expand your search, but also this idea of like the ease with which you can reach out to I don't know, the career center, your program director, just these resources that are available to you. Like because it was only after I had the offer from EY and after I had left that I had a full, more or less, like knowledge of the kind of resources that were available for international students at ISM at the time. So if you would tell something to international students, it would be like to use all of the resources available to you, like contact the career center, talk to your program director, stuff like that, right? As much as you can. Unless and until you've exhausted all the options to you, don't give up. Because it's like you never know where the shooting point is going to come from. It could come from different angles. Besides networking and like researching your own like career path, as we talked about, like people on LinkedIn, where you look at the people who are already in your career path, what other skills do you believe international students should look into before starting their career? I would say communication. Communication? Communication is a really important skill because sometimes people do have skills and talents and potentials, but they face a challenge in communicating this to employers, and this is a really big issue because I mean you could possibly be in front of an HR, having an interview with them. They have in front of them your CV, perhaps, and they see all those qualities in them, but those are just words. Like if you cannot communicate exactly what those words mean to them in your own words or practically to what they want to hear, then sometimes it would just be a challenge. And communication can take various forms. Like communication. I mean, like it's just next to every other skill that you need to have. Communication has to be next to it. Because it just goes a long way. I think a lot of times you get, like, as an international student or as a foreigner, whatever thing, you really have to be different. as well. This is another particular skills. Being unique has always been and would always be an asset, pretty much. Because you come in from your country, every international student comes with something very peculiar from their country, a particular skill that does not necessarily apply to different environments. But once you are able to explore that particular skill which you have, and you can communicate that, then for sure, 100%, you would be able to stand out and be able to get a chance to at least an entry-level position in a company.
So just don't be afraid of standing out, be unique, just be yourself.
Yes, you need to come out courageous, confident and courageous, because the corporate world is not it's not going to feed it to you on a platter. You
have to work for it.
You have to work for it, and to be able to work for it, you need the courage, you need that resilience to know that sometimes you would fall, but then that's not the end of it. You just have to keep going. What happens if you apply to 50 companies and you get the automatic email? What do? Do you just quit and say corporate life is not for me? No, you keep going. You have to keep going. It's not the chance for you to give up.
So get back up, 50 more emails, go again.
You have to keep track of it. I remember at some point I was counting the number of applications I had made, before even coming to Lithuania and up to when I was here. I had an Excel sheet. I was keeping track of it. At some point I was counting above 100 and something applications.
Over 100 applications?
Because it was across Europe pretty much. Before coming to Lithuania. And then when I got here, at least before I landed my first offer, or at least my first interview with Western Union, I had applied to more than 60 different job opportunities. Sometimes you just have to be radical about it. You never know which one is going to come true. You might say it's taking a lot of time and taking away a lot of energy, but what's the guarantee that the one that you focus on is going to come true? So you just have to be radical and go.
It's a necessary sacrifice.
It is a necessary sacrifice. It's
okay. Then also, when international students finally land their job, they've decided on a career path, they get the application, they get the interview, they get the admission, right? What do you think are some of the things that international students need to keep in mind to actually enjoy and make the most out of their career journey after they've already gotten the job?
That's a good point. I think that's something which myself and a lot of other international career enthusiasts are experiencing now. You have to keep working on yourself in terms of constantly updating your skills, improving on your career, taking up those little opportunities that come up in terms of adding those little skills that you would see. There's a lot of tools now we have, there's LinkedIn Learning, there's a bunch of YouTube videos now that come up with this little. You have to keep on updating those skills from time to time, and expand those network paths you have. Just go wider. You never know, because there's a huge development in terms of careers, which, especially in the finance field, it's constantly evolving. With the evolution of artificial intelligence, everything is just on the next level. So you have to get on board, put on your running shoes, because there's always going to be a race.
So keep networking, keep enjoying the work you choose it wisely, check also your other mentors, ask them for help, and just enjoy the path.
For sure, definitely. You have to give yourself the time to appreciate what you've achieved, and that's the part of gratitude. You have to be grateful for it, and enjoy what you've gained.
Well, and talking about gratitude, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And see you next time. Thank you very much for staying until the end. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us for any new uploads.